Hello sports fans, and welcome back to another week of the Pioneers Weekly Football Preview, where we take a look at high school, college, and professional football ranks. We're going to start off with high school this week, the final week of the regular season. Teams are still trying to jockey for position, playoff race, and clinch their spots to the playoffs. One of those teams is Lakeview this week, heading into this weekend's game, hosting Big Rapids with a 5-3 record. Big Rapids safely in the playoffs at 7-1. But still looking to host a playoff game in the first round. Bob, can you break down this matchup for us a little bit here and talk about the urgency that Lakeview's going to be playing with and what Big Rapids has to do to overcome that?
You talk about urgency, and that might not be Lakeview's biggest strength. They run the wing T offense that is a grinded out, take time off the clock offense. But they have to get successful. They got to get those yards, and they're going to play with a little more desperation than maybe Big Rapids. What Big Rapids has to do is keep doing what they do, use their speed. Nick Baldwin, Eric Boyd, get those guys the ball, get them in space, and let them do what they've done all year. And I think they're going to do that successfully. I think this is going to be a fun, entertaining game. I'll say Big Rapids will win this 28-24.
Brandon, Big Rapids also has a lot to play for this week with the possibility of hosting a home playoff game. Can you talk about who do you have coming out on top this weekend in the big matchup?
It is imperative for Big Rapids to win this week if they want to host. Being in a league where you have the possibility of having 5 teams going to the playoffs kind of gives the indication that this might not be the toughest league in the state. So Big Rapids is going to need to pile up the win so they have home field advantage, at least for that first round of the playoffs. I have Big Rapids going down to Lakeview and winning by at least 2 scores.
Looking at this matchup, I think Lakeview has played with some of the best teams in the league with some very close outcomes earlier this year. I think it's going to be the same this weekend. I expect Big Rapids to win, but I expect a very close game and a pretty low-scoring game at that. Another team fighting for their playoff lives this week is Chippewa Hills, who won a couple games in a row and are looking to pick up that elusive 6th win when they travel to Holden this weekend. Looking at this matchup, Bob, Chippewa Hills already has been playing with that sense of desperation. What do they have to do this weekend to punch their ticket to the playoffs?
I think he touched on it. Play with that sense of desperation. They got to play like there isn't going to be a tomorrow, because if they don't win, obviously there isn't a 10th week. And they got to just keep doing that, do what they're doing, and they're doing it quite well here in the last couple of weeks. I think they win this one going away and won't have any troubles making the playoffs.
Brandon, after seeing Chippewa Hills last week, can you give me a sense of where this team is at and what kind of strengths that they have heading into this weekend's matchup and what they need to do to be successful against Holden?
For Chippewa Hills, they have to go with what works, and that's catching up with their big stars like Trent Karcher and Jason Peacock. And for them, they're going to have to play a physical game against Holden. Coach Jost expects a physical game. They were a little dinged up Friday night, but I see Chippewa Hills going down to Holden, and I expect to see them punching their ticket to the playoffs.
I think for Chippewa Hills, the issue continues not to be talent, but just finding that consistency, particularly on offense. This is a team that looks dominant at times moving the football, but has had some trouble keeping drives alive and sustaining that type of proficiency throughout the game. If they can develop that, I think they're a dangerous team. I think that they'll punch their ticket to the playoffs this week, though, with a 3-touchdown win over Holden. Looking at college football this week, for many in-state football fans, this is as big as it gets. Michigan State is on the road this weekend against Michigan for the Paul Bunyan Trophy. Michigan State has won the last 4 in this rivalry, and both teams kind of head into this not living up to the expectations that were set at the beginning of the year, with both being top 10 teams. Bob, looking at this matchup, has some of the luster been taken away from it due to both of these teams' struggles at one point or another during the season, and who do you have winning this weekend?
Absolutely, the luster's been taken off of this, and I'm not quite sure why. If you look at Michigan's 2 losses, Alabama, best team in the country, bar none, and Notre Dame, who's proven that they're doing quite well this year. Michigan State has lost to Notre Dame, Ohio State, another top-notch team, and maybe a questionable loss to Iowa, but Iowa's still a decent team. I like Michigan State in this game. They have the formula to stop Denard Robinson, and that's just put 9 guys in the box and dare him to throw. It's worked the last 3 years. I think it works again. It should be a tight game. I see this being like a 21-20 type contest.
Michigan State does kind of have the blueprint on how to stop Denard Robinson. Do you see Michigan State doing that one more time during his senior season, and who do you got winning this one?
I think for Denard Robinson and the Wolverines, it's going to come down to physicality. It's to get that offensive line going. It's to provide Denard Robinson some room. He's going to get going regardless. They're at home. They're going to be amped up. It is a rivalry game. As far as their records are concerned and the lackluster performance so far, this is the biggest game of the year for both of these schools. And I think Michigan's going to pull out, well, I wouldn't call it an upset, but I think Michigan's going to pull it out.
I think one important thing heading into this game is that both teams are kind of trending in the opposite direction. Michigan, while they haven't played the toughest schedule the last couple of weeks, has looked a lot better on both sides of the ball. Where I think with Michigan State, you're starting to see some of those deficiencies start to show on both sides of the ball, but particularly on offense where they've continued to have struggles putting points on the board. I think that's going to be an issue for them again this weekend. I see Michigan winning by a touchdown in this one. Looking at our final game of the week, we head to the NFL, where Detroit is looking to sustain a little bit of momentum they had coming off a big road victory over Philadelphia in a come-behind fashion last week. Can they keep it going? This time it's going to be a Monday night contest on the road against Chicago, where they have struggled in recent years. Looking at this matchup, Bob, do you feel like Detroit has any sort of momentum heading into this game, and do you see them having any chance of pulling an upset?
The Lions do have some momentum coming into this game. Going on the road and getting an overtime victory at Philadelphia is big. But I think the difference this week is going to be the Chicago Bears defense. The Bears have one of the top defenses in the NFL. I don't think the Lions are going to be able to run the ball as effectively as they did against Philadelphia. And I think Stafford's going to find a little tougher back there, trying to find open receivers. And the big difference in where this game's going to come down to is, can the Bears score points? They struggle. Cutler's going to end up on the ground a few times. I do like the Bears, but this is going to be a tight game, like 16-13 type of contest.
Brandon, you've got to be back on the Lions bandwagon after last week, right? Give us who you've got winning this week.
I think the big question is, was Detroit really that great of a team to come back from behind and win, or did Philadelphia just self-implode? Obviously, with Juan Castillo's firing as a defensive coordinator for Philadelphia, I have my answer. As for this week, I don't think there's a lick of hope for Detroit. They're going to be outmatched defensively. They actually saw some defensive pressure last week, but you're not going to have Michael Vick this week. So I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair, 10-8, 10-7.
Yeah, I think the key for Detroit is going to be taking care of the ball. I think remember last year's game at Chicago, Matthew Stafford threw 5 interceptions in that game, and they were out of it very early. I think if they can stay in it and take care of the football, and if the defense continues to show some improvement with the return of Louis Delmas, I think that really helps them in the secondary. They've got a chance to win this game. I do not like the idea of a Monday night game in Chicago, though, for this team. It will show a lot about this team if they're able to do it. I think Chicago wins a close one, though. Looking for our final segment of this week's show, as always, we check out this week's Game Ball winners, which goes to our top prep performances of the week. Bob, get us started off here with your Game Ball pick.
My game ball goes to a person that we have called out, probably 3-4 times already this season. Nick Baldwin from Big Rapids. He had a couple touchdowns rushing, and then threw a touchdown pass that ended up being the game winner against Newaygo, and kept the Cardinals in the hunt for a CSAA title, and more importantly, a home contest for the playoffs. Congratulations, Nick.
Brandon, who do you got for this week's Game Ball?
I'm going up on US 10 over to Everett. That offensive line led the way with last week's victory and securing themselves in the playoffs, and they're going to be working hard. Good job.
My game ball pick goes out to Morley, where Travis McQuaig was able to lead his team to a victory with an early fourth quarter touchdown reception and helping the Mohawks to a 21-20 win over the Red Devils on Friday. Morley Stanwood has been competitive all year, even though their record has not reflected it at times. They've been a very tough out for every team that they've played. Congratulations to you, Travis. That's going to do it for this week's program. Make sure to check out BigRapidsNews.com and the weekend edition of the Pioneer for exclusive prep sports coverage this weekend.